Hello and welcome back to the Oxbridge Formula. Today we're here with a group of students from St Hugh's. So would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Charlie. I do human sciences and yeah, first year going into second.
I'm Mal. I'm doing philosophy and linguistics and same first year going into second year.
And I'm Nicola and I do biomedical sciences and also the same first year going to second year.
Congratulations everybody on making it through your first year at St Hugh's and at Oxford studying your various courses. So it would be really nice to hear a bit about your college life and experiences. So I wonder if we could go around maybe in the order that you just introduced yourselves now. And maybe you could tell us all, what do you think is a defining characteristic of St Hugh's College?
I think I think how welcoming it is. Like I was thinking about this earlier and like we're allowed to walk on the grass and like whenever I went to visit other colleges, when you have to like stick rigidly to the path, it sort of feels like it just feels quite exclusionary, whereas in Hughes, like everyone's really nice and welcoming and it like you can just go anywhere more or less. Like it's really nice.
Wow. What about you, Mal?
I think it's quite hard to characterize, and that's in a way its own characterization, that there's all sorts of different people there and you couldn't just say, oh, everyone here is like this or that. I'm sure that's true for all colleges, but I think exceptionally so for Hughes, where everyone's got their own sort of group and there really is a place for everyone to fit in. So I suppose that goes with the whole welcoming thing. But it's a very, very open, sort of non-judgmental environment.
Great stuff. And then Nikki, can you add
I totally agree with what everyone else has said so far. It is definitely such a welcoming college. I'd just like to point out the fact that we have cats. Flapjack and Biscuit, and they have been wonderful for student welfare, like especially when they just come and wander into our accommodation and they just say hi. And yeah, I've yet to see another college that has that sort of thing, so really happy about that.
Yeah, as a cat person, that's definitely a defining characteristic in my eyes. So thank you for that. I think you'll probably find me more up those ends in my second year as well. Okay, fab. So apart from all of the above then, did any of you apply directly to Hughes? And if so, what was it that drew you there?
Yeah, I applied directly to Hughes and I mean, again, to mention that you can walk on the grass, like I love the idea of being able to study outside and like revising with everyone just like on a big garden. Like it sounded fun, but also I think how far away it is from the centre of town, because I like that it's quite quiet and you can walk around St Hugh's and all the roads are just really nice, and it's sort of like the calm like outside of the storm, like it going into Oxford. So it's a nice place to walk to and from.
So how much weighting do you think the location should have when choosing which college to apply to?
Not necessarily location. I think it's more the feel. So I don't think you should decide based on like, oh, how close is it to the city centre. It's more like, oh, does this place look nice and feel nice to me? Like, do the college grounds I guess if they're relaxing, if they feel calming, like if you're into that. But if you want a more hustle and bustle, then definitely the centre of town is better. But like it depends on the feel more than the location, I think.
Okay, fab. So atmosphere is the key word.
Mm-hmm.
Did you visit St Hugh's on the open day? Did all of you visit, or is it just you, Charlie?
I did.
Did you visit other colleges, or like did you just visit St Hugh's? And if you did visit other colleges, what stood out to you about St Hugh's apart from like the really welcoming atmosphere?
Yeah, I tried to visit. I think I visited most of the colleges that do my course. And I guess apart from the welcoming atmosphere, they felt like they had a lot of societies and just groups within the college, even though it was quite far outside. And I liked how we have like one formal a week. Was it one every 2 weeks? But there's one, just because there are some colleges that don't have any, but it's a nice balance. And I like how I mean I like how it's not self-catered. I like how it has a dining hall. Like it's good for the mornings. Yeah.
So you said that you love the range of societies. What societies are you guys part of in college?
Me, I do table tennis mostly, but do you guys do anything else? I feel like I've spoken a lot.
I've rocked up to a couple, but I've not been committed to anything. But none of them really demand that. So I've gone to tabletop games and that sort of thing once or twice. And I think there was another one, but I can't remember.
What types of tabletop games are there on offer?
All sorts. Basically depends on what anyone wants to bring in, depending on the day. So it's really kind of up to everyone who wants to get involved. If someone wants to bring in something and try it out, even for the first time, they can just turn up and say, is anyone else interested in this?
So it's more like a social occasion. Nikki, do you see it as the same, being like just kind of on the side social thing, the college activities?
I guess it really ranges. I suppose there are some more intense college things I can get into. I mean, I'm mainly thinking of rowing, but I think that's the same for every college really in Oxford. I was temporarily part of the volleyball team, and that was great. I was absolutely awful at volleyball, unfortunately, but it's just the social aspect of it was fantastic, and I feel like that's one of the great advantages of St Hugh's. So many of the different clubs and societies, you don't necessarily have to excel at whatever it is that they're doing. It's more about, as I said, the social aspect. I do remember there was also another activity I got involved in at the beginning. That was, I think it was like arts and crafts, and but it was specifically like arts and crafts, but also like a discussion about what it's like to be, like a woman or like a woman of color. And I just remember we had some interesting conversations as we were gathered around that table. That happened more towards the beginning of the year, I think. So we have a range of things available for sure.
And what was like one thing that you took away from these arts and craft discussions? It sounds like a really valuable experience.
Yeah, I think that we took away, I think it was just therapeutic, really. I don't think there was like any one thing specifically that I took away, but just being able to talk about those sorts of experiences, just, get things off your chest almost. That was great. Also, I learned that I'm really bad at clay sculpting. So I suppose that's one thing.
I mean, what were you trying to create with your clay?
I think, wait, Charlie was there. Charlie, was I trying to make a fox? I think I was trying to make
a fox. They said the clay was pretty bad quality. Like they like you were handicapped in that way. It was a bit unfair.
It's the clay's fault. Always the clay's fault.
100%.
Yeah.
A brilliant artist always blames his tools.
It sounds like St Hugh's is like a really like diverse environment. So what do you think makes St Hugh's such a welcoming and diverse environment? Like, what do they have in place to encourage diversity?
You guys.
I think it's sort of broadcast at every opportunity that sort of you can always say what you're feeling, and there are always people to talk to. The sort of the management and the sort of the faculty, they're all quite open. And they insist you meet them to begin with and really take the time to get to know you. So I think it's sort of the whole culture from the bottom up that's encouraged at HUGHS, that contributes to that. And I can't think it's anything short of conscious that they are trying to make this kind of atmosphere, and it pays off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it might also be somewhat tied to St Hugh's history. I haven't looked into it in that much detail, but from what I understand, St Hugh's is, like, as you may know, is one of the more recently founded colleges, and part of the reason for that is the reason why it was founded in the first place was to give people, like especially women or people of financially disadvantaged backgrounds, an opportunity to study at Oxford. So I think that's something that's been ingrained from the very beginning. And you do still see, like in those little sort of exhibits they have of, college history and stuff, a lot of it is centered around women's history and things like campaigning to give women the right to vote, for instance. So I think it's just something that started all the way back then, has just been continuing on all the way now.
It's really empowering that you still find that that's preserved nowadays. And you said about also the different financial backgrounds, which is a really important point. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about, I don't know, if I went to the college and I fell on hard times and I still needed to support my studies, what would I be able to apply for from the college?
Ooh, I know about this. Yeah. The college has been really great. They've, like, for instance, during the pandemic, they've set up some specific, COVID welfare funding as well. I think there are 2 different funds you can apply for. In addition to that, they've also got a sort of college-centered financial support system, which you can apply for, but that's more for things that, like up to £1,000, I think, you can apply for. But if, like, you need assistance with paying your fees specifically, they still recommend that you go to the university, because the university has more funding available. Like one of the things I really like about St Hugh's is, one of the things I'm doing now actually is quite unusual. I'm trying to be converted from like an overseas student to a home student, partly because of like the financial aspect of it, and like the principal especially has been really supportive of the whole endeavor. That's really they've been pretty good.
Well, the principal, like, that's support from a really high place. So how often is it that you feel like you're being heard as just a singular, one of many students?
Well, we have this thing at the end of, I'm not entirely sure whether this is the same in every college, but we do have a thing called Principal's Collections, which is sort of an artifact of, apparently at some point in the past, you would actually have to do some form of collections with the principal. But now it's really just sort of like a welfare check, where you just meet up with the principal, she sort of like checks in. And one thing that I was really surprised was that she knew exactly like about what was going on. She'd been informed, and she was like wishing me luck, saying that, like, just to contact her or the college if I need any more sort of like assistance. I was really happy with that, like really impressed.
So lovely and so personal.
Yeah.
So what, in terms of, like, obviously you've got the adults of the college, the staff of the college that are really like supporting students, but what about from the students themselves? So the JCR committee, so just say the JCR committee is like a group of students who sort of represent different groups of people within college and bring the changes that college students want to the adults in college to make them happen and things like that. So what have your JCR committee done in terms of like making you guys heard?
Wow, I'm not heavily involved in the JCR. Maybe one of you guys should. Should do
So my college mum was and still is, I think, quite involved in the JCR. I myself haven't been, but I've heard bits about it, and a few of the second years I know. But there's always something going on in there, actively trying to come up with new things. There's meetings which also function as just a time for everyone to come together and kind of check in with each other every week. And recently, with the whole coronavirus thing, the JCR meetings have still gone on, and people have been really open. And there's with a lot of the issues surrounding race and things like that, recently the JCR has been quite vocal in trying to tackle these issues in college and make sure that people who are concerned about them have somewhere to go. So it's that sort of same thing, that it's not just, okay, if you have something to say, go on, come to us, if you're happy to. It's far more active than that. They're sort of constantly asking, do you have anything to say? Do you have anything you'd like to see changed? They're usually pretty good at following it up. But even on a less serious note, they do all sorts of fun activities just for people to have a laugh as well. So it really does feel like something for the students, by the students.
Yeah, it sounds like they've struck the balance completely right there. What has been, say, one thing over your past year that the JCR has really impressed you with?
It's a small thing, but when the Taylor Swift documentary came out on Netflix, there was just this kind of, hey, let's get together and do a screening with snacks and so on. These are just really unnecessary things, but they contribute to the college life, and make it feel like more than just a bunch of people who happen to live in a 500-meter radius of each other. There's things for people to come together and do. That's the one for me.
Well, the rest of us are really missing out.
Have you two got anything to add to that?
One of the things one of the things that impressed me, I suppose, was over the past few months, I'm sure you've been aware of kind of like the racism, discussions around racism that we've had in Oxford. One of the things that the JCR did was we had sort of like an emergency meeting, and bear in mind this is during the remote term, so people still had to go online for this. And I remember the turnout for this particular meeting was huge, like much larger than what it would normally be. And it was simply because so many people wanted to get involved, cast their vote for this particular motion. And I also appreciated how much support and like genuine discussion there was around it. And also the fact that I got the sense as well that people were specifically waiting for people of color to sort of like get their opinion in first, which I know sounds like a bit of a small thing, but personally I thought it spoke volumes about our attitudes towards the whole affair. That was one thing that happened recently.
And how lovely that there was just such a volume of people showing their support. I guess it kind of shows that, yes, the JCR kind of put that emergency meeting in place, but so many people must have been kind of waiting for an opportunity like that to show their support. So it's just one of those ways that it really does bring people together in like such a positive way. I'm really reassured to hear that you guys are being and feeling supported in that way. So we've talked a bit about like the JCR facility, and do you guys have a physical common room as well as like the JCR student body?
Yeah.
What's that like if I like went down on like a weekday? What would I find there?
I think the two most popular items in the JCR are either like the TV. I think they have a PS4, or like they have some games consoles, and they have a Wii, so you can play Mario Kart as well, which is a lot of fun. But I think the second most popular, probably the pool tables. They have two, and quite often there are people just playing, or people like sitting on the comfy sofas, just lounging about. Like it's in quite a spacious room with, it's almost like a conservatory. It's in like a conservatory, so it has quite a lot of natural light, but it's like glass. It's a really nice natural feel to it, and like when it rains, it sounds amazing, and just it's also right around the corner from the library, and so if you've been working in the library for ages, if you literally just walk 15 meters, then you can just sit and relax somewhere and like cool off a bit, and it's really good.
So like on your average day inside the college, whereabouts do you most enjoy spending your time?
I guess if you had to do like a heat map of where I spend most time, probably the library, maybe the JCR. I walk around the grounds quite a bit, just like on breaks, because that's really nice to get moving. Oh, and then the dining hall. Oh, and my room, of course.
So many things. I feel like you've just taken us on a whistle-stop tour. But first of all, let's talk about the gardens. Do any of you have a favourite spot? How big are the gardens?
Pretty big, I think.
Yeah, quite.
Massive.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of Oxford colleges, on paper it well, maybe in photographs it looks like they've got big gardens and so on, but like number one, you can't walk on the grass, and number two, they're mostly just quads, right? Whereas we've got like a pretty spacious garden. We've got, benches. I love this little space that we have where it's just like this big old tree, and we've got a circular bench just run around it. I've always wanted to just hang out there and study. I would feel a bit self-conscious with people walking by. That's sort of on a bucket list for me. A couple of years ago, apparently they built an igloo on the garden. So if that gives a bit of a indication of how large it is, I'm not entirely sure, but there was enough snow to accumulate on the garden to build an igloo, is what I'm saying. It's lovely. I think really the only colleges I've seen that definitely had a larger garden have been Christchurch and St John's. So we're pretty good, I think.
Yeah, you're up there.
Yeah.
There's quite a nice like floral archway thing. Like if you're next to the croquet lawn, and you can like walk under these, like a flowered arch, which is nice and like attracts wildlife, and there are nice flowers there.
People get college married there.
Yes. Yeah.
It's sort of meant to be like a wedding archway.
Oh, that's so cute. I got married at a college, but it doesn't quite hit the spot like that does. I love them. So if you didn't, perhaps, I don't know, maybe the weather's not always fab in Oxford, could any of you describe your room if you were, just spending your time inside instead of going out to these lovely gardens?
Are we all in Main build? Are we all in Main?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Main is kind of where they stick all the freshers. The lucky few get put out in some of the other buildings. HUGHS is quite sprawling, so there's all various different buildings, and but they're all on college grounds. But our rooms were, I think, quite nice. That sort of a single bed, place to work, shelves, lots of cupboard space. But the even just the sort of atmosphere, because after a bop or something, we'd come back to someone's room and just sit and talk until, the small hours. So they're roomy enough to do that and just have a nice time in, but also a nice enough place to work and kind of get away from it all.
Yeah,
It sounds like...
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The only complaint really that I have about the rooms is, at least for Maine, you weren't allowed technically to put anything on the walls. So if you did put something on the wall, you had to be absolutely paranoid that it wouldn't leave a sort of like mark behind or wouldn't peel off the paint. But there is one there is one building in St Hugh's College where you don't need to do that, and they've instead got it looks like a natural wall, but it's actually sort of like a corkboard, technically just a painted corkboard, and you can just like stick anything you want in there. So really wish Maine had that sort of thing as well. But beyond that, yeah, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I know you're not alone. I spent a lot of my time kind of putting things up and taking things down in my room and being like so paranoid of like, I used white tack instead of blue tack and like just try to scrape off every single bit afterwards. So you're not alone on that one. But Mal, I was quite interested because you said about it being a really social living experience, which I guess is what you want as a fresher, getting to know people and just enjoying your time and going to parties. But you call the people who aren't in the main building kind of lucky. What makes them lucky?
The rooms outside of Maine are just newer. Basically, they have things like en suites, but they miss out on. Maine is quite dense, in population wise. So the sort of social hub was definitely sort of the floor, whereas there weren't as many people in the other buildings. Despite their nicer rooms, they do miss out on that. So it was just the fact that they kind of have a prettier environment. That being said, they haven't got it all.
Yeah, definitely did have some. Sorry,
I feel like I should stick up for Maine because I really like it, and it sounds like it's been trashed. Like, I think I'm on second floor, and apparently there are 25 people, 26 people on my floor, but like proof if proof be need be of how sort of communal it is. I had to count all the rooms myself because I was like, there's no way there's this many people because it felt so quiet. And like we have a big kitchen, and like it's never really filled up unless people are doing like communal meals. Like someone will cook for the floor, and we'll all people buy ingredients, and like our pre-drinks for bops get quite mad because there's loads of people like spilling out the kitchen, and like we have I like my room's cozy. I like my room, and even though Kenyon has slightly nicer rooms, but their kitchens are tiny.
Yeah.
And the best building is definitely Maplethorpe, but only like 12 first years get in there. Like it's mainly for other people. But I really enjoyed main building, so I think it's great.
Yeah, I would second that. Especially the big kitchens. The big kitchens enabled a lot of really cool social events. Like I remember Pancake Day was fantastic. Just pancakes everywhere. We also had a movie night one time, I think for like Christmas movies, and we were all just bundled up. We brought in mattresses into like the corridor. We put up projected the screen onto the wall, just stood back. had some drinks, some hot chocolate mixed with mulled wine. It was fantastic, you know.
The thing I really liked was pretty much, you know, every evening, every other evening, you could just hear the voices in the landing getting louder and louder, because gradually more and more people would just sort of accumulate because everyone's procrastinating. So other buildings really miss out on the fact that just because there's so many people there, social events just sort of naturally happened. Yeah, didn't mean to sound like I was crashing Maine. I really enjoyed it too.
No, I think a lot of people, it's like, because my college parents, so doing human sciences, they all do, like, my college parents are the second or the third years doing my course now. But I think only one of them was in Maine for their first year, and the other 4 were in Kenyon and Maplethorpe, I think. But like, when I told them, yeah, I'm in Maine, like they were like, oh, they seemed so disappointed, or like, oh, that's such a shame. But like, I really enjoyed it. So even if you get into Hughes and people are like, oh no, you're in Maine, like, it's okay, it's a good place. Calm down.